Welcome to Syndicated Nightmares, where each week we take a deep dive into an episode of Freddy's Nightmares based on the Nightmare on Elm Street film series. Hosts Dave and Michelle are joined by Amanda Gonzales as they discuss episode 21 of Freddy's Nightmares titled Identity Crisis, which aired May 20th, 1989, written by Rebecca J. Pogro and directed by David Calloway. So welcome, Amanda. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi. I was going to say welcome also. Thank you.
Do you want to tell us about yourself? Any Freddy history in your blood that you have?
Let's see. I just watched it the other day, but I was about... Let's see, it came out in 1984, so I was 6 when Freddy Krueger came out. Mm-hmm. And I was one of the 6-year-olds that was actually terrified by it. I can remember that first Halloween, seeing like Freddy Krueger masks and stuff. And of course, Freddy's Nightmares when that came out. I was pretty terrified. I have a nice extensive collection of Freddy merchandise. I don't know. I feel like I'm geeking out a little bit.
Oh, no, you are allowed to geek out because we are geeking out with you. I had lots of Freddy merchandise when I was in my early 20s. And then I lost my job and had to sell it all on eBay so I could pay rent for 2 months. And I made a pretty penny selling all my Nightmare stuff, and I've never gotten it back since then.
Oh, that sucks.
I know. I know.
Along the years for my collection, because I have all kinds of pop culture stuff, I bought kind of pieces that I wouldn't mind parting with in the future. Mm-hmm. So luckily, when I fell in hard times, I was like, here, take this $200 Simpsons piece.
Nice.
Who cares? Okay, well, I'm going to give a brief synopsis on the episode, and then we'll get right to it. An ex-hippie who still loves peace and love above all else gets crosswise with his son and his money-obsessed boss. And later, a teen who shares nothing with her mother asks point-blank if she was adopted and does not receive the answer she was looking for. So the ex-hippie in this episode, if any Grease fans out there, is played by Kaneki.
Yeah.
So I was, humming Grease Lightning the whole time that this episode was playing, just hoping that he would break out into song, but he didn't, so.
He did not.
So Dave pointed out that this episode kind of takes a hard hit to people crossing into their 40s.
Right?
It does.
It's cursing allowed, guys? Because if it's not, is HE double hockey sticks allowed? Because what the hell?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Amanda, is it okay if I ask your age?
Oh, absolutely. I'll actually be 41 on April 20th. So.
Okay, Dave, what about you?
I'm 40 as well. I'll be 41 in June.
Okay, I will be 40 in July. So we, this one kind of hit home a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I was so insulted.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you remember how the episode started out?
Jeff Conway is at work, and his friend, who I recognize his friend as the sheriff from Friday the 13th, Part 6. Mm-hmm. But it's the night of his 40th birthday party, and he doesn't want to, he's dreading going home to his party, and he's not getting along with his son, and they keep making references to in with the new, out with the old, and he's young, we're old. Basically, life is over at 40, and he's an architect. And then when he's going to his car, these street toughs confront him and stab him in the gut. And then he wakes up from a nightmare at home, and it's the next morning. And we meet sorry, I skipped ahead. He wakes up in a jail cell, and he's a prisoner of war. Mm-hmm. And the guard comes in and criticizes him for being old. and then the guard turns out to be his son and shoots him, and then he wakes up from a nightmare.
They are eating breakfast at the kitchen table, and the son is looking at all of his money-making magazines like Forbes and all of that, and the dad, he's going through his magazines of Save the Whales and all that.
It kind of reminded me of Family Ties, the sitcom, because the dad or the parents were liberals and the dad worked for PBS, and then you've got Michael J. Fox, who's the Republican type, obsessed with making money. Mm-hmm. Son is the guy from Real Genius, who is not Val Kilmer, but the other one.
I love that movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great movie.
Mm-hmm. It was interesting to see him. I don't think I'd ever seen him in anything else besides that.
Buddy then is at work, and he's talking about how his boss is 25 and just the total money, after money, and that's all he cares about. And he's insulting his boss to his like coworker friend, and then the boss overhears him and calls him into his office and kind of scolds him a bit.
Yeah, his 25-year-old boss.
Mm-hmm. And then his boss tells him, like, oh, you have to come in and wear a suit and smile and everything. Yeah.
Patrick Bateman, yuppie kind of.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he's got to work on I think it's for Springwood Bank.
Yes.
He's designing a location for them that's going to be, terrible for the ecosystem and destroy nature. And yeah, and then he gets home and the son is on the other side of that argument and really wants them to build this new bank.
Because he and his classmates are meeting and they're having a protest for the bank to be built because apparently there's some type of holdup from the hippies around town who don't want it to be built.
Which was a fascinating concept. But you're protesting for a bank?
Yeah.
That was very...
Jeff Conaway has a vision of like bleeding from the stab wound again, but then he's fine.
Mm-hmm.
And then he takes his son to school and he runs in because the son forgot his book, and it's like the kids are being indoctrinated and they're all in these creepy uniforms with armbands.
Yeah, it kind of felt like Nazi uniforms a bit, the way that they were in there. And then so the son turns around and sees Buddy standing there, but instead of Buddy in his suit of how he actually is, they show him all dressed up as like that like typical hippie with the long hair and tie-dyed shirt and circle glasses, whatever. And so apparently that's how his son is supposed to see his dad, since they are on such opposite sides of politics.
Mm-hmm.
Which I guess is very common. Kids grow up to be the exact opposite of their parents most times, or that's how kids decide to rebel. I know my neighbor a few years ago, they were like huge hippies, like peace loving, and they had a daughter and she grew up to like believe in Christian Science, so like the complete opposite of how her parents raised her.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So it'll happen.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, I have a daughter who's in college right now, her second year of college, and she's like a total granola kind of hippie type, and I'm all black and alternative and horror movies. So yes,
it does happen.
He goes to work and then like nobody's acknowledging him, and his friend, I thought this was kind of cool. The friend had a ponytail, and he finds like the bloody ponytail on the floor, like his friend has been scalped.
Yeah, exactly. So Buddy goes to look for his friend, and it turns out that the boss is like conforming all of the employees, and if you don't conform, then you're like put in this machine. And it was kind of like one of the episodes that we watched, I think the Art of Dying, maybe. Do you remember when
the one about the cartoonist?
No, it was the one that it was in School Days where.
Oh right,
where
yeah,
the
machine to make them conform. Yeah,
yeah. So it was very much like that, to where these employees now were being sent on this like conveyor belt to conformity, and they would either be accepted if they would conform, or if they didn't, they would be rejected and turned into like a cement block, kind of like Han Solo when he was put in the carbonite. Yeah, so they totally Han Solo'd him.
Well, I like when like it indicated that that he was in this room and being tortured, and then the guy kind of walks out almost like from an S&M club or something, and just kind of walks out with footprints of blood, and just kind of pointless.
Yeah, and then he gets home, and then it's like the real genius kid and his friends are getting more militant as the episode progresses. So he gets home, and he and his wife are missing from a picture, and then I guess they end up chasing him and shooting at him in the house. Yeah, and then he's on trial to determine his relevance to contemporary society.
Oh, which
was a nice setup, like the Twilight Zone, the obsolete man.
In this episode, Buddy is given a public defender who is a hippie, I guess. And so the judge is asking Buddy, like, did you throw away your Save the Whales t-shirt? And he's like, yes. And like all of these do-gooder acts that he used to do before he had a kid, he could no longer do, and that's being held against him. And so his his hippie public defender is kind of like, well, you screwed yourself and I can't really help you, so whatever happens to you is out of my hands.
Exactly. The mom referred to the kid as that he's like, what was it? The father's talking about the kid. And I don't know. He's just so, and the mom says so 80s.
Yes.
So
Yes.
yes. Oh, because Buddy didn't understand why the kid was so money hungry and obsessed with like doing well in business, and he just didn't understand how they previous love child, you know, whatever, could raise a boy like that. And the mom was just like, he's just so 80s. When I reflect on the 80s, I don't think like Business Suit and Forbes magazine, you know. I think like Hammer Pants and all that.
Neon and big hair.
Yeah, big hair and Hammer Pants. That's what I think of when the 80s are mentioned.
Yeah, and then they get executed. They Jeff Conaway and his wife, they're taken to the guillotine.
Oh yeah.
And he, like the mom, gets stuck in there and her head gets cut off, and he doesn't really react much to it.
No.
and then he's next.
He gets in the room, right?
Oh yeah, he does start rapidly aging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he turns like 80 years old within a matter of seconds.
Yeah, and then he wakes up and he's in the parking lot. They use this a lot in the episode where someone's like dying and like the whole episode is a dream, and so apparently he never left the parking lot. He got stabbed, and the son comes and finds him, and he dies in the parking lot from the stab wound from the beginning of the episode.
Yeah, and that's basically it. Then it goes to the next one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which the next one I think has a lot of politicalness to it, like politicalness that's happening now.
Oh yeah.
When I was watching it, I was like, "Oh my god!" Like, can we talk about this? Because this isn't like an overly political show, but just the similarities of what happened in this show compared to what's going on now. I'm like, we can't just gloss over it, you know?
Right.
So
yeah, I mean the first scene of the second half is kids in cages.
And it's supposed
like,
to resemble like a dog kennel, but now it kind of resembles what immigrants are going through and what children are going through. They're being locked in cages by ICE and Border Patrol, and and it was not something I was expecting to see. And up until about, I don't know, a year ago, I would have been like, oh, that would never happen, you know, like that's just dog kennels, whatever. But no, here we are. Freddy's Nightmares has predicted the future.
Yeah.
So Christina wakes up and she's in this large cage with other children of various ages, and she has a sign around her neck. All the kids do, and it has their name on it. And it's supposed to like be a kennel orphanage sort of thing. Like all the kids are real dirty, and parents are coming through and they're kind of like going through an adoption process, but more like they're just buying these children instead of adopting them. But I don't remember who Christina was in the first half of the episode. I know like she was in it maybe just like for a millisecond.
She's friends with the Real Genius guy, but I don't, like, maybe she was in the Save the Bank Club, but
yeah, she might have
I don't remember
been.
seeing her.
Yeah, this is one of the only episodes where the second half that has like a B character didn't really give them a significance in the first half. Yeah, so that was like kind of like, wait, who is she? How is she connected to all this?
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, Christina is basically being sold on the black market to the highest buyer, and she's adopted out.
And then we see Freddy in there. Yeah, he's got a sign and he says, "Do you know who your parents are?" Yeah, and then Christina wakes up and she's in her bedroom and her mom comes in and they have this whole mother-daughter fight where the mom wants her to dress more conservatively because she wears tight things and ripped things. And her mom wants her to wear these like oversized frumpy dresses.
Yeah, very slut-shaming mom. Just
yes,
like called her daughter a slut because of the way that she dressed, and she really didn't.
Which really isn't that bad.
No, it wasn't that bad at all. And even if it was, who cares? Just, tell her, like,
Right.
I would prefer if you covered up your body. Yeah, it was a very typical 80s moment, I thought, in how parents are supposed to treat their children.
It was very Beastie Boys fight for your right to party kind of thing, yes.
Yes. But yeah, and then Christina goes to school and she's talking to Real Genius, and he says that, where she says she feels like she doesn't belong, and he tells her that he sort of felt that way when he found out he was adopted. But he's never searched for his real parents. I guess that I can stop calling him Real Genius. The character's name is John. But yeah, so that that sort of puts the whole adoption thing in her head, and now she's wondering where she came from and if her mom is actually her mom.
I think in the next scene we see Christina going through her mom's room and just like pulling clothes out of the dresser and rummaging through her closet and everything, looking for this.
Oh, she was ransacking it.
Yes, she was completely ransacking it, looking for her birth certificate or maybe an adoption certificate, something to prove that who her real parents are. And there are like clothes everywhere, and she just like completely ruins or completely like blows up her mom's bedroom basically. And so the mom comes in, and like Christina's trying to hide what she did, and it's like, no, like this bedroom is torn apart. There's no way that you were going to cover this up in like 2 seconds when you hear your mom walking down the hall.
I really like though how Christina, like, she totally tears up the room, and then she kind of has a fit and whines, and like, hand over her face, runs over into her bedroom and throws herself on her bed. Like, what?
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, the mom says like, you should have respect for my stuff, and she gets all upset. She's like, I just can't win. Like, you tore apart her room.
Yeah, and the mom was just like, what has gotten into you?
Right.
I didn't know what else was gonna happen, but I knew she deserved it. Like from that point on. I was just like, whatever.
Yeah, and then we're back. She has another dream. We're back to the kids in cages, and the mom, her mom from reality comes in and adopts her in that center, and she sees John. He's there screaming, and he's being dragged into a room for recalled kids. And I think it's the second time in the episode where we see like someone being dragged into a room and then blood coming out from under the doorway.
Yeah. Did that remind either of you? Like for me, immediately, all that blood that came out reminded me of Glenn from the first Nightmare on Elm Street movie. Just like the amount of blood that came out from underneath the door.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, there was quite a few Nightmare 1 similarities in this episode that happened a little bit later. Well, actually, I guess it was more Freddy's Dead, plot-wise, that I picked up on towards the end of this episode.
Oh, yeah.
So, Christina is adopted out by her mom right now, and then, is this when they're at the table and the mom is, like, serving soup or something, and she, like, tells her, oh, I think I'm adopted and I want to know who my real mom is. And she's like, you don't want to know who your real mom is. And then she goes to the nightmare house. Does
the mom ever like concede that she's adopted? Because it seems like, it sounds like she's covering up. She keeps saying like, Christina is like, I need my birth certificate for a school project.
Right.
And the mom is like dancing around with it like, oh, well, that was lost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. When she tells her, nice try, it was lost in the house fire. Like, oh.
Well, I worked at Job and Family Services, and I know for a fact that if you do end up losing your birth certificate in a fire, you can get a copy by going to the Vital Statistics building. And it costs $24 to get a copy of your birth certificate. But if you don't have that money because of low income, then you can go to Job and Family Services and they will give you a voucher for a new birth certificate, but you can only get one voucher per life. So you just can't all willy-nilly get free birth certificates whenever you want. You can only get it once for free.
What?
Yeah. So I call BS on you, Christina's mom, because you just have to go down to the vital statistics building and you could get a free one.
Oh, but my favorite thing in this episode, the next scene, like, I guess the mom goes to bed or something, and Christina's searching in the kitchen, and she finds her adoption certificate in the kitchen pantry behind the oatmeal. That's where the adoption certificate was kept.
Why would you hide anything there thinking that it would stay hidden?
Mm-hmm. Never looked at the oatmeal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. It is behind the oatmeal, so maybe.
Right. So she finds the adoption certificate. She goes to the Springwood Adoption Center. Mm-hmm. And the tyrannical woman who runs the place gives her a card with her bio mom's info on it. And she goes, and I guess it looked like the Freddy house or the doorway to Freddy's house that they use on the show, like in the nightmare sequences. Yeah. And yeah, she enters this nightmare house, and it's this trashy version. It's the same actress, isn't it?
Yeah.
Her mom?
Uh-huh.
Okay. But yeah, it's like a trashy version of her mom.
Mm-hmm. And at first, when she showed up at that house, at the nightmare house, I was like, oh, is Marge Thompson gonna be her mom? Because that would be awesome. But no, it was still, yeah, it was still her regular mom. And her mom, it was kind of like a trashy version of Dolly Parton. Like, not with the blonde hair and big boobs, but kind of just that, like, southern accent, but also, like, a Dolly Parton that you would meet in prison. Like, that's like the feel that I got for her. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, prison Dolly Parton is, like, just sitting in front of a fireplace, smoking a cigarette, and is waiting for her daughter to come in, and she's like, you don't want to know your father's name. And she was like, and Christina's like, yes, I do. And she's like, his first name is Freddy. And it's just that, like, dun dun dun. And then that's where I got the impression of Freddy's dead, where I was like, oh, like, this is totally supposed to be Maggie, but Freddy's Dead hasn't come out yet. So who copyrighted who here?
Right.
Did immediately I thought of when that part came about. I was like, do you think I'm your daddy?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
John Doe.
I love that part. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wrong.
Thanks. Yeah, so I really liked the episode starting at this point because I was like, oh, this is a turn of events here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Although they didn't after she said that, they didn't really do anything with it though.
No.
With Freddy being her dad.
No, not really. Mm-mm.
Yeah.
She just became a misfit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, pretty much.
And yeah.
But yeah, then she's like Cinderella, like they're in the rags, making soup for her mom, and then she's got to bring soup to the other misfit children.
That was Freddy supposed to have fathered all these children too, and that's why they're living in the house?
That's what I gathered from what the mom had told her.
Yeah, that's what I felt like. So Freddy's just out there planting his seed all over the place. I was happy, though, that Freddy has an African-American child because there was a very young black girl in the lineup of children that they were being served, gruel or whatever Christina was. So whatever Christina was serving them, she got some too.
Equal opportunity.
Uh-huh. Well, there isn't much of that, at least in this season of Freddy's Nightmares, unfortunately, so... anytime we see a person of color, we get kind of excited because we're like, oh, well, it's about damn time, Represent Freddy's Nightmares, come on. Yeah, so she's going around feeding these kids gruel, and then John, from the first part of the episode, comes out from like a secret hiding spot. Apparently he's in the house too, and she's like, you have to help me get out of here. And he's like, yeah, okay, follow me. And I kind of thought that was a little bizarre because he couldn't help himself get out of the house, but he's going to help her get out of the house.
Right?
Right?
Yeah.
I was like, where did you come from? And why did you wait? What? Like, I was confused.
They go to leave, but then Freddy, I think, is it Freddy or the mom who separates them?
I think it's the mom.
Okay, yes. Yeah, they go to leave out the front door, and the mom and all of Freddy's children are outside waiting for them. So then John gets to go outside, but then Christina gets like trapped in the house again.
Yeah, and then she wakes up at home and she's just so relieved and so happy that she's now going to wear the frumpy dress, because now she's so thankful for her actual mom.
Yeah, she realizes that having prison Dolly Parton as a mom is not the life that she wants.
So, yeah, but then, yeah, she's in the kitchen with her mom, and then her mom turns into prison Dolly Parton again. And
I'm writing that down.
Yeah, and then she runs down into the boiler room, and it becomes like a Hansel and Gretel thing where she like pushes her mom into the furnace, and then she wakes up, and she's back in the adoption center, and she's in a closet. And apparently, I was confused by this, of just like how much of this actually happened, or did any of it actually happen, or was it all her dream? She's in the adoption center. Her mother died in a fire, and she's just sort of catatonic and seeing visions, and they say she just can't accept the idea of going to a foster home.
Yeah, I got the impression that she killed her mom in a fire, and is now, as a result, is in like foster care for whatever reason, like instead of prison. And so like she was dreaming all of this because this is how she was trying to like cope with the fact of what she did and going to a foster home.
So none of it happened, do you think?
I think, well, I don't know. There's parts of it where I think it did happen, but I think she did kill her mom somehow, some way. Well, because remember when the mom said that her adoption paper or her birth certificate burned in a fire? Maybe that was the fire she was talking about, and it was her, and her mom also died in it. So she's just hallucinating all of this.
Yeah, it also stood out to me too when she does in the dream state, like push her mom into the furnace. And then like closes the doors, and then almost like a satisfaction. It's like, oh, is that where she gets the Freddy side from? Because it's supposed to be her father, quote unquote, whatever. So I don't know. Yeah, I also gathered though that she had killed her mom in one way or another.
Yeah, that makes sense. And then also like the dad, all they say about the dad is that he's not around anymore. So he could have been killed in a fire as well.
Or he actually is Freddy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And it was kind of weird, the like, what is it? How come the adoption like representative and the foster parents are like the weird, it's not alien, but like demonic. What's going on there? Remember, because she's in there and
at the very, very end?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think she's just sort of gone crazy in the adoption center, and so that's how she's seeing potential parents as monsters. I
thought that their faces like were charred, like she was seeing them as they were also fire victims.
Oh.
I thought that they were burned, but maybe they are like weird alien monsters.
Yeah, because like they had that weird speak, like
where it was all gibberish. I think that was from because she was in this like catatonic state that she didn't like register what they were talking about, so it just sounded like gibberish to her.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. So I liked this episode for like 5 minutes. That's about it.
Just for the nightmare mom and Freddy parentage.
Yeah, just that like 5-minute section of the episode, and then so before and after that, I was like, no, I don't like any of this.
I liked I thought it was interesting, but the whole first half, I was like, hey, 40's not that old, because they basically make it out like, you know, your life is over at 40 and you're just out of touch. And I guess the way when I was a kid, the way I saw my parents when they were 40 is different than I see myself now. Like now, at the time, I thought of 40 as being so old.
Oh,
and
yeah,
now
yeah.
I don't. Yeah.
I was that way too until I hit 30. When I hit 30, I was
Mhm.
like, I'm like halfway to 60. So 60 isn't that old, and 90
Right.
really isn't that old either when you think about it.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I had a hard time turning 30, and I'm going to have an even harder time turning 40.
Really? Yeah. I found 40 much harder than 30. Yeah.
Yes, agreed. Agreed. I thought that when I was younger, and then of course we're all three of us pretty much the same age group.
Mhm.
Like I thought that 40 was gonna look like Roseanne. So when I used to watch old episodes of Roseanne,
yeah.
that's what I'm gonna look like when I'm 40. That's what 40 is gonna be like. Man, that sucks. But like now I'm getting hit on by like 26-year-olds, and then wait, you're how old? No.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're 40?
Mhm.
No, none of us look 40. Dave, I never would have thought that you were 40.
Oh, well, thank you. I wouldn't think you were 40 either of you.
So, Amanda, how did you like this episode?
I liked the first part for all the guest stars, and the second one, like I said, Christina, as soon as she threw that tantrum after she ransacked her mom's room, I didn't care what happened to her.
Okay. Fair enough. Dave, how'd you like it?
I thought it was entertaining. It was a little bit of a story-wise, it was a bit of a mess, but
Mhm.
I enjoyed the second half more than I enjoyed the first half. And
Yeah.
I thought that was fun with the crazy mom and the Freddy thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, right on. Thanks so much, guys. This was a lot of fun. I tell people that Freddy's Nightmares was like what Freddy would do in between messing with the kids on Elm Street.
Nice.
I'm starting my own project, launching now with convention season. So around Monster Palooza, myself at Phantasm 420 and my buddy Travadare are going to be having our 33-minute podcast. So everybody tune in. There we go. Updates will be at Phantasm 420 on Instagram.
Well, thanks so much for listening. Please join us next week for season 1, episode 22, Safe Sex, where Freddy teaches us how to pick up girls.